What is up, guys? I'm Andres.
This is RB3.
I'm Sabrina.
And this is The Meaning of the Podcast, a podcast where we talk about your favorite film directors and the deeper meaning within their films. This episode is a very special episode, guys, because we're doing our top 5 directors of 2019. This is something recently that RB3 and I kind of made up on the spot and said...
Yeah, 2017.
Who's the director that really kind of took the year by storm, dominated the conversation, kind of made the best out of 2019? It doesn't necessarily have to mean they made the best movie. It doesn't necessarily have to mean they made the biggest movie, but it could be both. I mean, if you guys consider that to be dominating 2019, to me, I just kind of define it as the director that really, made a stir in the year of 2019. Could be awards, could be box office, could be anything else. And this is always a lot of fun because we get to talk about directors, which is what we do on this podcast, and we get to talk about how they've taken this industry by storm. It could be well-known directors, could be up-and-coming directors, could be brand-new ones, which I always like to do. Unfortunately, my list is a little bit more traditional, but there was a lot of people I had to leave off.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, by the end of this episode, I'm hoping you guys get to the ones I left off because I feel like I purposely left off a few because I was like, I think Sabrina's got it. I think RB3's got it. But let's do it, guys. We're going to start with our number 5 director. This is the director that really dominated 2019. I'm obviously, man, I always told you last time, you're the star of the show, so I got to go to you.
You only put me first. So
I mean, you're going to New York, bro. No, bro, you're going to New York.
I know
you're headlining the show, bro, in New York City.
Get the fuck out of here.
Come on, bro.
No, okay, so my number 5 director, this isn't really in like any particular order for me.
Sure.
I kind of like to think of this list as like the people who I think got their voice most heard, through their movies. Didn't have to, didn't have to deal with a lot of the studio hackery that happens in a lot of these big movies. And for me, the guy who overcame the studio hackery both in 2017 and this year is no other than Rian Johnson. I think Knives Out is one of my favorite movies thus far this year, and he definitely, he could have taken like the Last Jedi situation and like held his head low, retired. I think most people will retire after getting stormed by a bunch of nerds on Twitter, but he didn't. He kind of came back with like bigger and better than ever with a full Oscar nomination, PGA Award nomination. So there's a whole lot that could be celebrated by Knives Out, and that's where I got to celebrate.
My number 5, I'm not joking, is Rian Johnson.
Hey, there it is.
Rian Johnson.
Look at that.
Every reason you just said, man.
Yeah.
This guy really came back. Obviously, it's not even a comeback.
He didn't go
because
anywhere.
He made it's one of the biggest movies ever, The Last Jedi, and it's one of the most loved movies ever. So it's not even a comeback, but he really made a name for himself. I feel like more than any other film he's ever done with Knives Out. I feel like Knives Out is the Rian Johnson movie that people need to see. And I know you love Brothers Bloom and Brick and Looper, but to me, this is my personal opinion. I feel like Knives Out is that Rian Johnson movie where he's able to take, like I said before, his comedic elements, his super nerdy elements, his mystery elements, and all that stuff, and combine it into one cohesive movie that is both equally a box office success because it made so much money and an award darling. I mean, it got nominated for an Oscar. Obviously, it's not a ton of Oscars, but at least it's an Oscar nomination for screenplay. So it does have that ability to win an award, possibly, and still make a lot of money in the movie theaters because this movie made a ton of money. And it's in the top 20 movies of 2019 domestically, which I know a lot of people might roll their eyes and say top 20, that's not saying much, but it is.
But when the top 8 are all Disney movies.
Top 8 are Lion King, Avengers, Star Wars, and all these huge, like literally the biggest movies we're going to see in a long time, in my opinion.
Right.
I think top 20 is actually a big deal, especially when right above it is like John Wick and How to Train Your Dragon. Those are huge movies. And the fact that Rian Johnson is able to be alongside those big movies and get an Oscar nomination had to be on my list. So he's my number 5 as well. Sabrina, you're number 5.
Well, really quickly.
Oh, yeah, of course. I'm sorry.
Definitely, I agree about Rian Johnson. Unfortunately, he didn't make my list, but his voice is so unique. I'm really happy with all the success that came out of Knives Out. I mean, like, his writing style is so spectacular. So I'm happy that he had this kind of premise to really show it off, this kind of ensemble cast. So completely agree with you guys, but mine is Ava DuVernay.
Hey.
Yeah. So, she created, wrote, and directed When They See Us. I think it's one of the most profound pieces of work that has definitely come out of 2019. obviously it was earlier in 2019. People aren't talking about it as much. Well, it's still talked about a lot, but not as much anymore.
Yeah.
But she did Selma back in 2015. She did 13th. I mean, she has such an impactful voice with all of these works. She kind of like shapes the conversation with what she does. She's not just directing. It's like she's kind of being an activist for some stories that are like unheard, some unspoken voices.
Yes.
So that's why I just like really admire her a lot. I really love what she did with When They See Us. It was one of my favorite things that came out last year.
Yeah, I'm so glad you included something from TV. I didn't even think about that, but if you think about it, When They See Us is one long movie.
It's
that has a few acts to it. I mean, I've talked about it with RB3.
Yeah, we did a podcast.
I'm still convinced When They See Us is the best thing to come out this year. I'll put it at my number one and on Twitter because it's not like we did an episode about it.
Yeah. Right.
My number one on TV, I put When They See Us as my number one, followed by Chernobyl and Watchmen. And Attack on Titan, because come on now.
What about Barry?
I'm sorry?
Barry?
Barry's in my top 5. But When They See Us was my number one because everything you just said is spot on. I think Ava DuVernay created something so special that I really hope people really do watch the whole thing because it's something that's spectacular. I know Jharrel Jerome is winning all the awards, and with he deserves it in my opinion.
Sure.
I mean, that kid broke my heart in like a million little pieces. It's ridiculous.
That 4 is nuts.
Yeah, and it's crazy because what you said is so interesting. I never even thought about it like that. That she has like this activist, almost like documentary approach to all her work. Even Selma, if you think about it, it's a very like this is the life of Martin Luther King. This is 13th is like this is what people live nowadays, and When They See Us is very kind of documentary style too. And she has that documentary background because that's her first work. I think she's one of the greatest directors working right now by a mile.
Even though you hated A Wrinkle in Time.
I didn't hate it. I just didn't like it. And I think that's okay if I didn't like it.
Totally.
I'm still convinced that she's okay.
You start telling people I hated it.
I sat next to you, bro.
No. You start telling people I hated it. No. I even when we did the When We See Us episode, he kept saying you hated it. I literally put a clip to when I was giving all the compliments of it.
Yeah.
But I sat next to you though, so.
But it is crazy to see how she approaches something like a Selma or like a When They See Us versus something like A Wrinkle in Time. I think when she does something like When They See Us, all of that kind of stuff, she just really, really shines. So I'm really excited to see what she has going in the future. I mean, I think this all started with a Twitter interaction. Like, I think one of the Central Park 5 tweeted at her, and they were like, let's get this story out. Like, I'd love to have like Ava DuVernay direct it. And she was like, I'm down.
Wow.
And I think that's literally how it started.
That's
so
wild.
It's just so crazy that she's giving those voices out.
If I'm being real, and I know I've said this about a lot of people, and I'm probably going to say this again about another director on my list, but Ava DuVernay might be my biggest inspiration in Hollywood. Just because I'm obsessed with like, and I've talked to you RB3 about it, not so much to you, Sabrina, about like you, not activism, because I feel like activism is too. It's not, to me, it's more education. Yeah. I'm obsessed with education, and I feel like there's a lot of stuff about Latinos and immigrants and kind of border stuff that I'm obsessed with, and I kind of want to create, and I'm currently, writing down ideas for stories about border and immigration, and I'm thinking about more on a documentary style level because I feel like that's easier for me because I'm a much more fact-driven person, and story-driven persons to me can be done in a documentary style. Right. But Ava DuVernay, I read her Twitter post that I retweeted, and the fact that she said, like, I never even considered myself to be a director. I didn't pick up a camera till the age of like 33 or something like that. And I told my parents the story of Ava DuVernay to tell them how much of an inspiration she is to me. Like, I didn't go to film school. I'm reaching that age right now. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like personally, and I'm getting real personal with you guys, I feel like I'm getting late to the game. Like, it's too late for me. Like, I'm telling my parents, like, I can't make movies. It's too late. Like, I might as well write about them. But my parents are still like, you can still direct, you can still do stuff. So I don't know.
Still do stuff.
She's inspiring me personally now to like pick up a camera or start writing a documentary, and I'm kind of thinking about stuff like that. I think she's incredible. I think she's the future, and all power to her because that's a great person to have on your list. So.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I was gonna put Ava DuVernay on my list too, but yeah, I kind of thought, and also again, Queen Sugar is also one of the best things I gotta apply Ava DuVernay for too, because it's a whole TV show with like a full female directorial ensemble. So every episode is directed by a different woman director, and you kind of tell that through the voice of that series. And she created it, obviously, and she's very highly involved in it. And yeah, I was gonna put it on the list too, but I guess I'll just jump into my number 4.
Let's do it.
I want to shout out another up and coming African American woman director. Obviously, you could apply more than 2 black women directors. But I want to shout out Malia
Matsoukas?
Melina Matsoukas.
Malia Matsoukas. There we go. Boom. There we go. That's how you pronounce it. She is obviously the director of Queen of Slim. To me, I had kind of ups and downs about the movie itself and what it was trying to say, like politically, but I think the direction is probably the best part of it.
Yep.
And I think most people actually generally agree with that, because the movie ended up she ended up getting nominated for the Directors Guild of Americas for like the first feature award nomination. She also has done a lot of like my favorite Beyonce videos, like Formation and the Rihanna video for We Found Love. So she's a very powerful visual director, and I think in a year of a better Academy Awards year, I think she's kind of the exact kind of experimental-ish director that they would normally sneak into like a Best Director category. It kind of sucks that they left her out now, but I thought Queen of Slim definitely wouldn't be the film that it is without her eye and her touch, and so a lot of respect to her for that.
I completely agree with you, like about everything you were saying about that. I think the direction is the strongest point of that movie, and I think without her touch with this film, it would have landed a little bit different, not in a good way. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did see Queen and Slim. Yeah, absolutely. Everything you said, I 100% agree with. I just saw an interview with Daniel Kaluuya talking about this movie. It's so interesting because it's such a layered film as far as what it's trying to communicate. And I just love how Daniel and Jodie Turner-Smith is the girl who plays Queen. I think she's incredible. And I think she has a huge future in Hollywood. How they're able to... I think one of the best parts of the movie is how their relationship blossoms.
Right.
But you're right, man. I think spot on. Melina just created something really special with Queen and Slim, and I could see her making a lot more features.
For sure. Yeah, and I hope so too. And I think I always pride myself on the foresight that I have when making making this list, because I put the Safdie brothers on in like 2017, and I think I put on a lot of good, people who I look forward to seeing more of them, and she's definitely on the top of that list for me. So
absolutely,
yeah.
Your number 4.
My number 4 is Jordan Peele.
Hey, there it is. Us.
So he always tells these incredible stories highlighting his themes in a very innovative way. I think coming from what he did with Key and Peele and making the kind of films he's making right now, even producing like The Twilight Zone, everything like that, it's he's incredible. He tackles so much in his films just thus far. But with us, I think it takes it again to another level. Kind of doing like the duality of human nature, which is symbolized by the tethered. It's so meticulous, such thoughtful direction. And he puts so much out there, but in a not like, I don't want to say simple way to like downsize it, but like in a very simple way where you don't feel like you're getting hit over the head with like the themes that he's presenting. He's doing it in such a way where it's like you're able to like process it and like absorb it, but you're not so confused, and you just want to learn more, and you want to keep like searching in his films for other like Easter eggs, things like that. I know we talked about it last week when you had us. We talked about that. So that's why I think Jordan Peele's one of the greatest right now. Just a completely like innovative mind, so incredibly talented and smart. I'm excited for him in the future.
Yeah.
I know this sounds like I'm making it up, but Jordan Peele is literally my next one on my list.
Hey.
I waited for you to finish because I felt like that'd be rude for me to interrupt. But yes, everything you said, 100%. I have this running thing with RB3 where I still want to do this as a video essay, and I know I keep saying that, but I actually think I'm going to start to write it. Yeah. The top 8 movies of 2019 were Disney, all top 8.
Yeah.
The bottom 3 were Chapter 2, Joker, and Us. And I really do feel like people forget Us. Us was one of the biggest movies of 2019, and that's really saying something when you're putting up against Disney and all these ginormous superhero comic book movies. What Jordan Peele is creating is a brand of. It's not. I'm not saying he's reached that level of Nolan yet, but he's reaching that level. He's getting to that point
he's a
where
superstar director.
Yes, where people see the name Jordan Peele, even Monkey Paw Productions. Shout out to Monkey Paw. Is starting to get to the point where people are now saying,
It's like
"Oh, I'm gonna see that."
Like
The guy who did Get Out. Oh, hell yeah, I'm gonna see that. And now he's able to take that and brand it.
Absolutely.
Almost like a Disney style branding.
Yeah.
Like I told you guys when I put Us in my top 6 of 2019. Like the Universal Maze, the tether, the red jumpsuits that people can wear for Halloween. Iconic imagery that he creates. And he did that with Get Out, with the spoon, with the upside down. Like, what is it? Not the upside down.
I think it was the upside down.
No, that's
the sunken place. I'm sorry.
The sunken place. Yeah.
But those are iconic words and imageries that he's using now that people now know what. Oh, you're stuck in a sunken place, bro. Like this is stuff. You see what I'm saying? Like he's creating art and he's creating culture with his not even just movies, but he's creating culture with everything he does. And I think like that has to be applauded. I think more than any other time we're gonna live in a future. This is my prediction of movies that are just all Disney, and at the very top, in the very side corner, there's gonna be Jordan Peele like fighting the good fight, being like, "Hey, let's get some weird shit going."
He's the Hitchcock of this generation.
He kind of is. Like I know he just started, but I really do feel like it's something. It's saying something that you're able to make the top 12 movies of the year or top 11 movies of the year when there's all Disney in the top 10. I do feel like that counter programming
definitely
of a rated R original horror movie that he's done original horrors every one, all of them rated R. That counter programming to the 4-quadrant Disney movies is something so powerful that has to be applauded. So that's why he's my number 4 as well. Damn, bro, we're already at number.
We're powering through these.
Yeah, man, we're already at number 3, bro. This is gonna be quick.
Number
Which
3.
is good because last episode was 2.5 hours. Well, not quite, but you know
it came down by hour 50. So number 3, I want to give a quick shout out to a movie that I haven't really gotten a chance to speak about on this podcast, but it is kind of a movie that really affected me a lot this year, and I think this movie is really the movie that really started my kind of putting together these ideas of like what 2019 in general cinema was trying to represent, right? This idea of class struggle, this idea of class anxiety, the rich versus the poor, and what that all really means. And this movie really started opening up those ideas and really started helping me connect the puzzle pieces to where other movies like Joker and Parasite started also communicating those themes as well. And a big movie for that, believe it or not, was Ready or Not.
It's like 3 dudes.
Radio Silence is the filmmaking trio behind it. 2 directors, Tyler Gimlet and Matt, and I'm not even going to try and act like I can pronounce his last name. And then also executive producer Chad Viniella. So it's like a filmmaking trio, Radio Silence. They were responsible for stuff like VHS, Devil's Due, Southbound. But to me, Ready or Not kind of perfectly encapsulated like what 2019 cinema kind of represented to me, at least. It was like, to me, I love the whole idea of like having this contained horror thriller inside of this house, inside of this like, it's kind of like almost the same premise as Get Out almost. Like this lady, she marries into this family, and when she, on the night the night before the marriage, the night of the marriage, she realizes that there's something much darker, much sinister happening. So it's like, to me, I loved Ready or Not because it was the perfect combination of horror and comedy that I think just makes it stand out and has like this brilliant like overall tone and voice. But I think moreover, I applaud these guys for really encapsulating a lot of the themes that I think a lot of cinema in 2019 was representing. I think this movie did it in a really well done fashion. So that's mine.
Yeah, I heard an interview from these guys again from the Big Picture, where they talked about their struggles to get the DGA to approve their trio direction. And it was so interesting because they actually have to go to like a board, and it's almost like it's almost like court, they said, where you have to present in front of like judges to convince them that you are all fairly balancing out the direction because there is an actual like thing. It's
like a whole appeal process.
Yeah, like it happened with Ron Howard and Phil Lord and Chris Miller with Solo, where they had to watch the film and officially say, is this still my movie? Do I want to fight for it, or is this not my movie? Kind of thing. And there's a balance between how much direction is yours and how much artistic creativity is another person. So they had to convince the board that they are a trio and they can do that. And they said that at the top of their biggest offender, they want to name names, but the one name they named was a person that was fighting for them, and that was Jon Favreau.
Oh, really?
They said Jon Favreau was going to bat for us. He was like, come on, these guys are great. Look at these guys. They've done all this work. Look at their YouTube shorts. Because apparently he did shorts on YouTube and stuff. And Jon Favreau was like fighting for them. And I was like, that's such an interesting story. But you're right, man. These guys are special for sure. They're definitely directors to look for. And I think that's something to give credit to. So that's a cool
and
one.
Ready or Not it wasn't like the biggest blockbuster, but it made $60 million off a $6 million budget. And it was
that's incredible.
Yeah, and it had like a really it has style. And that's why I appreciate a lot about movies. Movies have style when they have something to say too.
Yeah.
And
especially a first-time director.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of first-time directors this year, and you were like, damn. They have style, yeah.
And I think they've directed or produced things before in the past, but this is like this was kind of just like a big showcase on a bigger scale, I think. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I actually didn't know it was the same people that did VHS. I was a huge fan of those types of films growing up when I was a kid. Me and my friends would just like sit there, have sleepovers, and watch it.
Right.
So that one, VHS, stuck with me for a while. So I mean, good on them. I really did love Ready or Not. It was so good. The entire ensemble, the entire family, and what you were saying, how like sinister it is,
right? And
just going through and just rooting for this girl, I loved it. I saw it in theaters and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, 100%.
Interesting. Your number 3.
Mine is Ari Aster.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so obviously I've been liking Ari Aster for a while. He's been on my map. I mean, there was a short he did called The Strange Thing About the Johnsons, and I saw that a long time ago, and I didn't know who this guy was, but I was like, whoever did that needs therapy. Super creepy, but I wouldn't say it's like a horror. So then going into with things like Hereditary and Midsommar, he's kind of delving into like horror just a little bit more. And I think he's just able to like get under our skin with themes like grief, family, mental illness in a way that I haven't like witnessed before. Hereditary was my favorite film of 2018 by a mile. And like what he did with Midsommar this year, I think is just absolutely stunning. His second feature to come out so soon. I remember him talking about how he was working on Midsommar like as Hereditary was coming out, just like right away.
Right.
And I just think he's an incredibly like unique and talented individual. I think he's something really, really special. I put him on the same mantle with like the Safdies, Jordan Peele, and all of them as just like cemented, like amazing, talented filmmakers that I just can't wait to see what they're doing in the future.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Ari Aster was, I believe, on my list the last time we did it. Hereditary was my number one movie of the year.
So good.
We've talked about this. He was my Hereditary is my favorite movie that year too, by a lot. I mean, I think that movie's amazing. And Ari Aster, to me, the way his 1-2 punch, I've talked about Get Out and Us 1-2 punch being like just perfect. And I mean, Hereditary and Midsommar, it's that crazy one. Like this is my first movie. This is my second movie. He's incredible. The guy is a genius. The fact that Hereditary to me is like a perfect movie, and it's able to do so much and say so much and be really profound and really special, while at the same time being kind of creepy and horror and being a horror movie. But I think it's so much more than a horror movie. In my opinion, it is that special new brand of horror. That it's
like the elevated horror almost. People
keep saying that. Elevated horror. It's like a think piece horror. Where there's something being communicated there. It's a new brand that I feel like a lot of directors are doing and doing really well.
I love it.
And I think these directors, whether it's Leigh Whannell, whether it's the girl who did Babadook.
Oh, I know you're talking. Fuck, I know exactly you're talking
Jennifer
about.
Kent.
There you go.
Jennifer Kent, Ari Aster, Jordan Peele. I already said Leigh Whannell.
Robert Eggers.
Robert Eggers. I would even put Adam
Eggers,
Wingard in there, even though he's made a lot of movies that people don't like. Those kinds of direct, like The Guest, The Witch, Get Out, Hereditary. These all these movies that are really, I feel that 20, 30 years from now, we're going to be like, why did we not nominate this for Best Movie?
Yeah.
Like, this is
people
I mean,
it's like when you look back and like you think Kubrick never won an Oscar. Like,
Yeah.
you think about that. You're gonna think about these guys and you see these people in general, people who are just immensely talented, but just goes over mainstream audiences' heads. You know.
Yeah.
I think definitely Ari Aster is one of those for sure.
Absolutely.
I think in the future it's gonna like transcend. It's gonna continue to just build an audience. I feel like something like Hereditary. I'm not trying to like speak too soon or anything, but I think it's gonna become like a classic. I think this is gonna become like staple movies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure. Ari Aster is incredible. My number 3, and then we're going to go to break, guys, and then we'll do our top 2. My number 3 is the directors that made. I had to put him on this list, and I know we're trying to get indie directors and stuff, but come on, man. Yeah. They made the biggest movie of all time. It's the Russo brothers.
Yeah. You know what? I can't let you. This is the 3rd year in a row you put the Russo brothers on this list.
Well, to be fair, here's my thing. I don't think that's true, number 1. Number 2,
second year in a row.
Maybe
sure.
second, but number 2, I really was thinking about this last night as I was making this list. Think about it. Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame.
Yeah.
Like, mic drop, bro. Like, you can't get any more special than that.
Those are the top.
You see what I'm saying? Like, this is, as much as we give credit to Kevin Feige, which all the credit due. I mean, the guy's a genius. The Russos are the artists behind this painting. They're the ones who are creating it. They're the ones on the cutting room floor. They're the ones in the editing bay, sitting down with the editor, seeing what works and what doesn't, and working out pacing and story. These guys deserve credit for making the biggest movie of all. Like, for crying out loud, we thought Avatar was never going to be B. We said it many times. Like, as movie pundits, we said Avatar is never going to lose. It's going to be number 1 always. And sure enough, it's not. Like, this movie is so big and it's so incredible. And we talked about it when we did our top 10 of 2019. It was your number 5 of the year. And I said it to you when you put it that high. I said this movie is so special. And it's when you really go back and rewatch Endgame, it dawns on you that it's like, this is a perfect emotional balance of, like, if you take out all the action, I'm still so emotionally invested and moved by this story. And then you just add the action and you're just like, oh my God, this movie's insane. It's incredible.
Right.
And the fact that they're able to do that in each and every one of their films, because I already named them, going from Winter Soldier all the way to Endgame, but even Infinity War, like, my God, Infinity War is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And Civil War, which is able to take Iron Man and Robert Downey Jr. and put him on a different level when it comes to performances and character motivation. Because I feel like Iron Man just really becomes Iron Man in Civil War. Like, you really see a different side to him that I'm just like, that made me a bigger fan of Iron Man than even the Iron Man movies. This is my take, but and I give credits to the Russos for doing that. So I had to put him on the list for creating literally something that is iconic for a lifetime.
Yeah.
So
no,
yeah,
they should be celebrated. I mean, we went to a Q&A last year with them in between Infinity War and Endgame, and they talked about the amount of, like, work it takes to make these 2 huge films back to back and do it and pull it off as successfully as they do. One of them said they were, like, super sick on set and they were literally getting, like, wheeled around in a hospital bed. I mean, they put their all into this. So that's just something to be celebrated. Yeah. Absolutely incredible.
Your thoughts on my number 3?
Yeah,
and then we'll go to break.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I love Avengers Endgame, and I think you are right. Like, it wouldn't be what it is without those 2. I think that particularly, when you look at their journey from coming into the MCU as, like, little known directors from, like, Community and I forgot what else they did. They did Arrested Development as well. Yeah. Coming in as, like, comedy TV show directors and making something as awesome as Civil War, then something as grandiose as Civil War, and then now, like you said, the biggest perhaps movie of all time with Avengers Endgame is definitely worth being celebrated. So.
Absolutely, and it finished this MCU that we know of. So far, and it's been incredible, and all credit to the Russos for doing something that was already the biggest thing ever, and then they
Right.
just put the little cherry on top that it's like the biggest thing and the best thing ever.
Right.
Like it really added a different layer. So that's my number 3.
Hey,
and after
number
this break, guys, we're going to be doing our top 2 directors of 2019. We already named a lot of good ones, so I'm excited to hear the top 2. So make sure you guys stick around after this break.
This ain't funny, so don't you dare laugh. With the 4/5 divide you in half. You getting at me equals a club laugh. You do the math, take you out the equation.
The following is from Ace and Sabrina's review of Portrait of a Lady on Fire, available exclusively on First Cut. Enjoy.
Obviously, me and you both love Phantom Thread. I don't know if you.
Yes, love Phantom Thread.
Is it
Almost
like
made my top 10 of the decade. I told you.
Yeah. Do you think this movie's like akin to that kind of like tone and style?
Yeah, as far as pacing wise, at least, I would say so for sure. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it has a similar pace as far as that slow burn and that romantic build-up for sure.
What about The Favorite? Do you see comparisons?
I don't see The Favorite, if I'm
Yeah.
being real, because I feel like the
Yeah.
tone of The Favorite just kind of goes like, whoop, whoop, versus
Even
this
though
one
it
is
does,
very like, we know where we're going. Versus The
okay.
Favorite, I was
Yeah.
just like, I don't know what's happening.
Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
What is up, guys? We're back talking about our top 5 directors of 2019. We've officially reached our top 2 directors of 2019. I am so excited to hear this list from you guys. After this, by the way, I don't know if we should do it after our number 1 or we should do it before our number 1. We should give a quick shout out to people that I wish could have been on my list.
Yeah.
I'll probably do it after the list just because we're going so quick. But RB3, your number 2 director of 2019.
Right.
Who may that be?
Now, going into this, I really didn't Google this until like literally just now. So I'm gonna put this with a little asterisk. My number 2 director is Jennifer Lee, the director of Frozen 2, and I want to give that a shout out because I think Frozen 2 is a lot more inventive than a lot of people are giving it credit for. I think for an animation, having a continuation on that. It's also co-directed by Chris Buck, who also did the first Frozen as well. But this movie, I think, was so imaginative, especially for an animated film. In a year where there are an immense amount of like female directors making like a grand splash across the world, I think this movie really demonstrated the importance of female empowerment, especially in front of the camera and behind the camera. I think, and again, like I want to recommend Frozen 2 for people who haven't seen it because people might not like the story of this one as much as Frozen 1 because it's not. I guess Frozen 1 is more of a original Disney type of thing, but this movie, it doesn't even follow like any sort of like formula. It really barely even like has a plot, like almost. But it's more of like it's more about self-exploration, like more than anything. And to see that communicated in like a big budget movie, you know, like this, I think is pretty admirable. And I want to applaud directors who can shine, especially amongst the studio system. And I think out of the Disney films that came out this year, besides Avengers Endgame, which I put in my top 5 list, is probably my favorite Disney film. I think that came out this year too. And just making a great Disney film is a high mark in my end. So
Wow.
and should have some love.
That's great, man. What a cool person to have on your list. I never even considered that. But
Yeah.
animation directing is so technical and difficult and really a work of art. So.
Yeah, I wanted to figure out a way to incorporate an animation director, but I really didn't see any other animated movies this year.
Yeah.
And you loved Frozen 2.
I do love Frozen
you loved
2.
It.
Yeah. And I want to shout out the director. Visually, I think Frozen 2 is immaculate. I think it does have like a lot of subversive elements to it that I think is really, really cool. And Jennifer Lee, I'm giving a shout out. Also Chris Buck, who co-directed it, giving a shout out too. But really more for the female representation here. I think is really important to give that some looks.
Yeah. So mine is Greta Gerwig.
Nice.
And it pains me to put her at number 2, but I really, I was going back and forth with my number 1 and number 2. But yeah, I just think she is, first of all, one of the best working directors. Her background in acting and writing, I think, elevates her ability to like understand all aspects that go into directing.
Right.
Little Women had this featurette where everybody was just praising her work on directing and like their experiences on set. So I absolutely love that. And she's able to tap into this both like visceral and intellectual lens of a story. just kind of like exploring like growth and like emotional maturity and all of that process with younger women, which is something I talked about a little bit of like last week. But yeah, she wrote and directed Lady Bird and Little Women all on her own. But she kind of has a history of co-directing and co-writing with other people, not just Baumbach, but even just a few people before that. And obviously Baumbach's my favorite writer-director. So the fact that she co-wrote a lot of the films that I love by him just makes me love her even more. And she really, really shined. Her talent shined in Little Women this year. So had to shout out to her.
Yeah. That's great. Did you see her? You saw the Hollywood Reporter Director Roundtable?
Yeah.
So you saw when they were like, oh, yeah, we read each other's work all the time.
Yeah.
Like, we know each other's work because we talk about it before it even reaches, like, the writing portion.
Yeah, because even with Marriage Story, I don't believe she helped him co-write that one. But he was saying that she was there with him through that entire process. And it's so cool to see two of my favorite directors, first of all, be a couple and, like, go and help each other out with their projects, because I love their voices, their individual voices. So them working together, the fact that they're able to do that so well, I love it.
You're just crossing. No, because you're like, what's the break once they break up?
Nah.
When they break up.
That's literally like James Cameron, Captain Bigelow. Like,
Hey, we'll get some good films out of it if they do.
Yeah,
that's all
true.
I'm thinking.
Very true.
But no,
That's very
I want
true.
them to stay together.
No, she's such a talent. I mean, in that same episode, an interview, she talked about how she showed the movie to Steven Spielberg and how Steven Spielberg was on the set of Lincoln and how he took all his notes and all the work and costume design and everything and gave it to Greta as a gift to get the exact same time period correct. He because she was like, she didn't have to do all that work because Steven just gave it to her as a gift. And then after she made the movie, she showed it to Steven Spielberg, and he gave her notes. And she said that his notes were just so spot on and so perfect, and like everything was just done with such a big heart that it didn't even feel like notes. It just felt like talking to someone. So she spoke about that process. I think a person that's communicating with Steven Spielberg at this level, she is reaching that level where she's able to keep up with these master geniuses, all-time directors, and even like someone like a Noah Baumbach, who's I consider to be a genius as well.
Right.
So Greta Gerwig, I mean, obviously I've talked about Lady Bird so much because I really do feel like that shows you already just with one movie what she can do.
And we put Greta Gerwig on.
We did.
I think both of us put her on our list for the 2017, 2018 episode. So.
And she's only mid to late 30s. I mean, this is so early on in her career, and she's already just putting out amazing films. So I'm just so excited to see everything.
Yeah, she's another one. I gave a shout out to Ava DuVernay earlier this episode, but she's another one who kind of just jumped into directing.
Yeah.
She was an actress, like or a writer, obviously.
Right.
But the fact that she's able to take something that is considered to be so, like, you have to know your craft if you're able to direct, and she's just like, I'm going to do it. I'm just doing it.
Right.
And I'm going to make a story that's close to me with Lady Bird.
And then
do something like
Little Women. She
Yeah.
said Little Women was even more personal to her and that she had a draft of it before Lady Bird. So that's something that I really love. And you talking about Ava DuVernay being one of your main inspirations, Greta Gerwig's like mine. Like I would just love to sit down and have a conversation with her. I think she's one of the most incredibly talented, like smart people out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. That's a great number two. My number two is a director that is just like out here like swinging and just making hits after hits and just like landing these hits. This guy is, we talked about him on our 2019 Best Movies of 2019, but he really is that guy who's come from nowhere to do tiny movies to some of the biggest movies of all time and maybe even bigger movies now. And he did a movie this year called Jojo Rabbit. That's Taika Waititi. Taika Waititi is my number two because he's able to take, obviously, just the premise of this movie, it should not even be greenlit by Fox Searchlight. Shout out to Fox Searchlight. I don't think they even exist anymore.
Just Searchlight now.
Disney Searchlight. But even that, and the way he's able to take that movie and make it pretty successful box office wise and get all the awards and attention that it's been getting already, because it did get Oscar nominations and it did get a lot of attention. And it was a beautifully directed, even on a technical level, because a lot of people give they think that's his one weakness, where he's the funny director. He can't really do technical cool stuff.
Right.
And I think Jojo Rabbit is the one movie, even more than any other of his movies, whether What We Do in the Shadows or Thor Ragnarok, where he gets a little, like you said, he gets a little bit more stylistic, in my opinion. He tries things that are different than I've seen in any other of his movies. At least that's how I felt. And on top of that, he took this opportunity with The Mandalorian and just made it his own by directing 2 episodes in that series. And
1 episode.
No, I think
just the finale.
I thought he did 2. I thought he did one. Really?
No, just 1.
Just one? Okay, I might be wrong, but I'll look it up afterwards because I'm the Star Wars guy, so I might be. No, I'm kidding. But by directing that episode and playing the character of IG-11, and being someone who is able to take his brand of comedy, put it into Star Wars, and do action and do it all perfectly, I just feel like this guy is just not missing. He's hitting every single time, to the point that he might direct the next Star Wars trilogy for all we know, because he's being looked at right now, and he might do it. Like, this is the kind of guy that is being given all this IP, all this property, and all this responsibility, and everyone's like nervous and at the edge of their seat being like, can he do it? Can he do it? And he does it every time. So he has to be on my list. I mean, the guy's a freaking genius, and like I said before, he's another one of my inspirations. So
yeah, no, 100%. Like you said, I think if it was just for me, like I really wanted to actually put him at the top of this list. I only felt like I put him on the list before. I didn't want to do I wanted to put 5 new people on here for me personally. But I for in terms of pure domination of 2019, from like you said, The Mandalorian to Jojo Rabbit, obviously, and he did something else this year that was also pretty big too, right?
What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh yeah, What We Do in the Shadows.
That
TV
was earlier
show.
this year.
Yeah. But just everything around Taika Waititi is just like pure go. Everything he touches is absolutely just blowing people's minds. I'm over the moon excited for Thor: Love and Thunder. I'm excited to see whatever future he has in the Star Wars universe. I'm excited to just see him just do all of these franchises and take risk and have his voice shown through, because like you said, like I think especially something like Jojo Rabbit, it really puts his style to the forefront. And having seen so many World War II movies and having seen so many movies about like Hitler and all these stuff, this is actually something that's fresh and original and still shines. And by the way, the idea of him making this movie where he's essentially playing whiteface as Hitler, still making it charming and heartwarming is absolutely phenomenal. So
no, it is really crazy. I'm a huge fan of his. Jojo Rabbit was easily one of my favorite movies of the year.
Right.
And everything he does, he just lends his particular voice. I know we've already mentioned this when talking about him, but like, it really is, as like a writer, it's so amazing to see the way he's able to put himself into any premise, any story, even Thor Ragnarok. Like, that's all Taika. Like, that's Taika's imprint on that one.
Right.
So yeah, the same thing with Jojo Rabbit, with that crazy outlandish premise, the way he's able to ground it and like really get like this beautiful performance out of Roman Griffith Davis, who is so talented. And same thing with Archie Yates, the other very talented kid. Absolutely love it. Huge fan.
There you go. Yeah. We've officially reached our top of the list. Yeah. Do you guys want to give a quick shout out to some honorable mentions that didn't quite make your list? Can I start?
Yeah,
just because I really want to start this by saying I really was so close to putting Alma Harral on my list.
Yep.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like out of all the first feature films, she didn't necessarily make my favorite. She didn't necessarily make the best, because there's a lot of first features this year that were spectacular, were amazing. But I really do feel like she made the most special one. And that's saying something to me, because I feel like Honey Boy is just a special kind of movie. It's short. I believe it's like $1.46, $1.42. It's like one of the shortest movies I've seen this year. Yet it says so much and has such a powerful punch. And I recently saw another interview with Shia talking about how he was able to make this movie and how he got her on board to make the movie. And it was kind of her idea to even make it a movie. And I just love that concept. But I feel like everything I've seen from behind the scenes, a lot of our discussions on this podcast is talking about what a director does and what is the purpose of the director. But one of the main things a director is supposed to do is establish a culture, an ambiance on set that allows for actors to really have an opportunity to express themselves at full length and no holds bar and be open and free and vulnerable in a positive situation, in a place that doesn't have any judgment towards you. That is one of the biggest things a director has to do on set as the leader, as the captain of the ship. And I feel like that is what she did in Honey Boy to the top degree, because she's able to take emotional moments and just really pull it out of the actors and establish them in such a powerful position. Whether it's, I forget the name of the kid, Noah Jupe, Shia LaBeouf, all the actors in that movie. Lucas Hedges?
Yeah, Lucas Hedges, FKA Twigs, even just like that small part, but
When I haven't talked about it, but when I saw FKA, I was like, is that FKA Twigs in this movie? What?
Yeah.
And I was going to put a little tweet out with Noah Jupe hugging FKA, and it was going to be like, Robert Pattinson, eat your heart out. Because he's, never mind.
Yeah. Well, FKA Twigs and Shia are dating now, so she's doing good.
Oh, really? Oh, nice. Hey, that's sick.
My point is, I feel like that is the purpose of a director. A director is supposed to communicate with an actor and get those performances out of an actor. And then everything else around them, a lot of it is the AD, shout out to ADs, but a lot of it is just making it coherently work with the performance and with the story. And that to me is Alma Harral. And then my second shout out is Lulu Wang. She made one of my favorite movies of the year. It made my top 5. The Farewell is beautiful. I think she is the most talented one out of the first features, in my opinion, because, again, there's a lot of first features this year that were beautiful and spectacular, but I think she's the most talented. I've seen enough interviews. I've heard enough stuff from her. I've seen her just being able to communicate the way she deals with scripts, with actors, with story, with studios. I think she's the most talented director to be on the come up. So.
Exactly. That's a big honorable mention. I literally had her on the list, but I thought one of you guys were gonna say it.
Yeah.
So I was gonna not just Lulu Wang. I mean, Alma Harral for me too. Like I really had her on the list. But that's one big honorable mention for me. I want to also shout out. I was really, really close to put Martin Scorsese on the list too, but it's too controversial, and nobody here likes The Irishman, so it wouldn't be a fun conversation. Did you guys see that tweet I sent you the other day? Maybe I didn't send, but it was like somebody put like Hustlers is better than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Joker,
oh, I did see that.
And I agree. No,
I'm kidding. I can't help. I can't help but to think of it. Speaking of Hustlers, I was really gonna put Lorraine Scafaria.
Yeah, I was gonna put her too.
Yeah, because I really, really love Hustlers, and I think that was a really, really, really great movie. I think didn't get any kind of attention I think it deserved, and it's about strippers, so it really sucks. And yeah, those are my main honorable mentions.
Mine was Alma Harral. That's my first one. I mean, Honey Boy, for everything that you said, but Honey Boy wouldn't be the movie that it is without her. I truly, truly believe that. And then also Lulu Wang, of course, for everything you said. Taika Waititi, Lorraine Scafaria. Yeah. I loved Hustlers. It came so close to being on my top 5 female-directed films of 2019. And that's how you know this year, like last year, was absolutely incredible with all of them. So, yeah, those are mine.
Oh, great. Oh, so we had the same ones?
Yeah, Alma, Lulu, Taika, and then Lorraine Scafaria.
Wow, already. Yeah. So we've reached our number 1.
And also Baumbach.
Of course. I was gonna say I would have put Baumbach on it too, but I think I put him on one of our previous episodes.
Oh, we did, you did. Because of Meyerowitz.
Meyerowitz story, and that's the thing too. I want to look up Netflix movies because I always want to represent Netflix because they give the directors complete freedom.
That's actually very true.
Yeah.
They literally say do whatever you want.
Yeah.
More than any other studio or production company.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I wanted to put Scorsese on here, and also Craig Brewer too for Dolomite is my name.
Oh, there you go.
Great stuff there too.
Alrighty, man, we've reached it. Yeah. Our number 1. Wouldn't it be crazy? And I know I'm saying this, I haven't even heard your number 1. Yeah. If we all had the same number 1.
I know.
Are we going to have the same number 1?
We have the same number 1.
Are we doing it? All right, say it.
Bong Joon-ho. That's what we here for.
I have Bong Joon-ho as my number 1. You have Bong Joon-ho. Oh my God.
Hey, we have to.
Yo, we out here. First cut. Let's go. The mini
celebrate greatness, man. You got to celebrate greatness.
We have that same. wavelength of mental communication. We are reaching Professor X level, man.
Yeah.
We're doing it, bro. We're doing it.
Yeah.
Tell me why, RB3.
I mean, what else is there that we need to say that we haven't said about his filmography so far? I mean, he is one of the most critically acclaimed international directors of all time. Just from Murders and Mystery to Okja, Snowpiercer, all of the movies that he's made, Mother, throughout his entire career, all of the, and of course The Host, which was one of the highest grossing Korean films of all time, and to Parasite. This feels like this has been something that he's been building up to his entire career for. The fact that he's always been the master. He's always been having a real skillful eye for like storytelling, but this Parasite is the story that I think demonstrates that the most and the best, through the direction, to the composition, to the editing, to everything that the movie has, to the writing, to the acting, the performances. I think every single actor in this movie is absolutely mind-blowing. I think he creates the most iconic movie to come out of 2019. I think this the film that I think is going to stand the test of time, and we're going to remember for a very, very long time. And obviously, Parasite won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival when it came out. Is being nominated for all of these Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, I don't know if it's nominated for the screenplay category, and foreign language film. I think is a front runner. I think it absolutely deserves to win every single thing that it's nominated for. So
there you go.
That's just me.
And I already told you guys that I think it is going to win.
Yeah,
I hope
that's
so.
my hot take.
I hope so.
Tell me more.
I mean, also he won the Golden Globe for Best Director, which I think is something that's really incredible for a foreign language film. Just recently, this past weekend, they won the SAG Outstanding Performance by a Cast Award, which is their equivalent to Best Picture. So I mean, it's looking good. But just besides all of that, I mean, the way he's breaking boundaries as to what like cinema is, even just to Americans.
Yeah.
It's opening up the idea of other cultures and other people being recognized in America, as much as our own directors are, because like we live in a lot of the filmgoers live in such a bubble where he talks about that, breaking those barriers with the 1-inch barrier. But in my opinion, he easily did the best directing we saw in 2019. I think we all agree here, obviously. All of these different elements came together so flawlessly, and I just love what he's doing to Hollywood right now. I just feel like he's like completely shaking it up. It's something so new, so refreshing, and I hope it's something that follows for the years to come. You know, something like this, opening ourselves up to all these other different films, voices, everything. So,
absolutely. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing for me, because I defined it before the start of this episode. At the start of this episode, I said dominated 2019, made the most of the year, drove the conversation. Right. That is exactly what Bong Joon-ho did. Besides everything, you started with the movie, the greatness of Parasite, right? But then it's like you said, it's breaking barriers, it's breaking boundaries when it comes to awards, when it comes to attention. And now, to me, what I think it's becoming this opportunity for other Korean cinema to enter the conversation of American audiences enjoying it just as much as they enjoy maybe French cinema or maybe any other international cinema they might have not been paying attention to. Right. And it's that opportunity for international artists to have a bigger audience, and international artists being recognized by what is traditionally considered American Hollywood structure. I mean, obviously, the UK has a lot of movies too, and they make a lot of movies, and they have production companies out there. But it's usually that kind of one flow connection of like, this is, like he said, it's a local event, it's an American thing.
I love that he said that.
And I love that he said that too. And another favorite quote of mine is the one you just said, that if you get past the 1-inch barrier, your mind can expand to the beautiful, amazing opportunities of new movies, something like that, like where he says like I forget the exact quote, but he says
if you get over the 1-inch barrier of subtitles, you'll be introduced to so many more incredible films.
Yeah, and that's such a thing that people just don't get over. Maybe it's just because I watch so much anime, and I'm so used to it. I'm so used to subtitles, but people aren't. And I enjoy international movies, and I'm able to keep up with them. But a lot of people don't, and I feel like Bong Joon-ho is introducing that effect towards people. And one more thing that I have to say before we go is the Asian aspect of this whole thing, because I know a lot of it is international and cool, and it's subtitles and it's Korean, but I'm like, yes, and Asian filmmakers, Asian Americans, whether you're Chinese American, Vietnamese American, Korean American, Japanese American, just the Asian culture out here in LA and in the world and in America and in Hollywood in filmmaking. Obviously, we're going to see Shang-Chi, The Legend of Shang-Chi, the Marvel movie, which is going to be that first movie, which already
Chloe Zhao directing.
No, it's the guy who did. It's Daniel.
She's doing
Dustin
Eternals.
Daniel Creighton. Chloe Zhao is doing the Eternals. But I feel like that's another example,
exactly.
right? This is something that's coming up. We're going to see Mulan this year. Of Asian directors and Asian cinema, Asian actors, Asian talent having this opportunity and this platform to be on the come up and be risen up to a different level. And they've already had for so long, but now finally they're getting that recognition and that love that they deserve. Exactly. And I feel like us as film watchers and film lovers should give them all the love and all the support that they need and they deserve, because I love my Asian brothers and sisters. So and they're so talented that I feel like now Bong Joon-ho is introducing that effect where people now put them up at the equal level of Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino, Bong Joon-ho. Like that is something so special.
100%. Like I saw it with a really packed audience at the Dome for the Collider FYC event on Thursday, and the reaction to the film from the audience is incredible. The fact that some people really can't read subtitles, like they don't want to read subtitles, so they won't be able to experience this film, is just so disappointing. It's so sad. Like they're missing out on something incredible.
Absolutely. And that's why he's our number one, because I really do feel like I always pick, he's a pioneer. My number one is always someone that is, like you said, breaking boundaries, breaking barriers, trying to break down the establishment of Hollywood. And that is exactly what Bong Joon-ho did this year with Parasite, a movie that a lot more people are going to watch now because of the attention it's been getting, and it deservedly so.
Yeah, exactly.
So there you go, guys. We picked the same number one. I still can't get over that. I really can't.
Bong Hive. Bong Hive.
There you go, man.
Gang.
And a TNT show being adapted. Is it TNT?
HBO.
TNT is adapting Snowpiercer, and I know it's based on
a
comic book, but still, it wouldn't have gotten that deal if it wasn't for the movie. So they wouldn't have had that effect. So that's another credit.
And also HBO with Parasite.
And HBO with Parasite.
Wow, that's so incredible.
And now these actors are going to have more opportunities, and just Korean cinema in general, and just I don't know. I'm just so excited.
You're seeing them all come up on stage for the SAG Award, and seeing Bong's reaction during and then afterwards too. It's just, I absolutely love it. It warms my heart completely because they're getting the love that they deserve. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to you that I would actually put Song
King Ho.
Up there over a few actors. I told you that when we did the Oscar reactions. I was like, dude, I'd put 100%. A few Parasite actors too. So I'm glad they got that attention too. Shout out to us for picking the right one. For picking Bong.
I feel like all of our picks were like really, really strong.
Absolutely. Yeah. There we go, guys. That is our top 5 directors of 2019. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. If you enjoyed it, let us know what you think in the comments down below. Let us know what you think are the top 5 directors of 2019. What did you think that we all had the same number one? All that kind of stuff you can let us know in the comments down below. And obviously subscribe to First Cut if you haven't already, our YouTube channel. Hopefully you have, but if you haven't, go ahead and do that. And you can follow us all over the social media sphere with Instagram at FirstCutTMO and Twitter at FirstCutTMO. Yeah, absolutely. And you can follow us personally, too. I'm at Squad Leader Ace.
I'm at Director RB3.
At Sabrina X Monica.
Yeah, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram for all the good stuff. And send us all the love, because we need the love, y'all. We need the love. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed that episode. And for the Meaning of Podcast, I'm Andres.
I'm Sabrina.
And we're peacing out. Peace out, guys.